We're live on YouTube at least. It looks like we're live on Facebook too, so.
All right.
Hello, everybody.
Happy Tuesday. Yes. Is that a good week or a bad week when you can't figure out what day it is?
I don't know. I haven't known what day it is since Avery was born. So, actually, since COVID started.
A year plus of not knowing
Yeah.
what day it is. That's something to be said about rhythms being out of whack and
Should do a sermon on that.
the change around that. Maybe something about being healthy.
Being still.
Being still, that's good.
Yeah.
Some silence, some health. I'll have to consider that. So, John is bringing a very strange item into the picture here.
This
So-
is my lighting dummy, and it was in the background, so I thought she'd like to say hello.
You're gonna have to explain what a lighting dummy is.
Well, okay, so when I'm doing lighting and video, I don't have anybody to stand there, so I can focus or I can do lights. So I bought this, and now she helps me out.
Nick and I are no longer his lighting dummy.
Yeah.
He has one on a pole there.
I did scare Nick with it when I first got it too. I stuck it in his office.
Nice. Hey, Bethany.
Hi, Bethany. How you doing?
So glad that you are with us.
We have a cool new thing where it's on a TV where we can see comments, so we're not like this the whole time, which
Yep.
is really nice.
So if we're looking off this direction,
Uh-huh.
oh, wow, Bethany
Wow,
thinks
she's
pretty.
pretty.
You're so
You know,
kind.
what's funny is one of the praise team members was like, "She looks like your wife" on Sunday, and I was like, "No, she doesn't. That's super weird."
Like, that's really disturbing.
Yeah, actually, she needs to turn around.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Just off camera. Yeah, that's much better. She's now looking that way off camera. So.
Bethany's doing great. Drinking my 6th shot of espresso, dude.
Is it just straight espresso? Is this like Americano? Is it in lattes? Is it
She
like
makes a mean oat milk maple latte.
oat milk, maple latte. That sounds really good.
It's very good. She brought them on Easter. She made them for the volunteers outside.
Was that oat milk?
Yeah.
I had one of those.
Did
It was
you?
good. I like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was oat milk. I bought my first like half-gallon, quart, whatever size that is, of oat milk, and
It's expensive.
I'm kind of in between. It was on sale. That's why I bought it.
Oh, okay.
It was very much on sale.
Angela can't have dairy right now, so she had to order in a case of it, and I was
Ouch.
like, "Oh."
Wow, nice. All right, next time you make one, oh, look at that. That's what she made.
Americano.
Americano with oat milk with maple syrup.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna have to try that sometime here in the future, which
Could be very soon.
could be very soon.
I'm going to be talking to you soon,
That's right.
Bethany. So hopefully you'll be able to make that at our cafe in just a few days. We'll see. Who knows?
Pretty exciting.
Speaking of in a few days, Mother's Day is in a few days this Sunday, and we're really excited. We've got the kids who are going to be singing with us in second service. We've got a baby dedication in third service, and we've got flowers for all the moms.
That's right.
So
That's
we're
right.
really excited for that. It feels like we haven't had a Mother's Day service in 2 years.
Oddly enough, we've not.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I don't recall what we did for Mother's Day online, because we were online at that point, I think, for Mother's Day. Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
No, we weren't. We were
No?
here.
No, we were online.
Were we? Okay. I feel like we had flowers in here last year, but I have no idea.
Man.
It's Tuesday, right? We already talked about that.
Yeah, let's move on from that. We're here to talk about this past Sunday.
Yes. Because we don't have a clue what happened any of the other Sundays in the last year and a half, whether or not there was a Mother's Day service there last year or not.
I should just go back and look. It was probably, we recognized mothers, but it was during Thread, so we probably just kind of,
I don't know. All right.
no, it was Thread. We did something for it. I don't think it was here, though.
Were we outside at that point? Which that's coming hopefully very, very soon too.
We're going to have to research that.
Yeah. Not that outdoors. We don't have to research that. We have to research Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look at this. Bethany, you're getting all sorts of like breaking, news here, and
Yeah.
anyone else that's with us, you can please say hello. We'd love to see that you're here.
Outdoor services, cafe,
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to this. Lots of people have been asking about what's next, like what's coming service-wise, and if we're going to be outdoors, and so we'll be announcing some of that coming up soon, and it's going to be different than last summer. Let's just tease it that way, right?
Yeah.
It'll be different than last summer, but it's pretty exciting at the same time.
We're going to do it at sunrise every day. Every
John
Sunday.
is going to be here at sunrise
Yeah.
every day. So I don't even know what time that is during the summer. That's
Neither
early.
do I. Yeah.
That's way too early. So part of our goal is not to be here that early. That'll
Yeah.
be you praying here in the stillness and silence.
Out
of this
on our
place.
new benches.
On the new benches.
Here's another reveal.
Yeah.
We have new benches out in the field that Al Byam and Ben Lark built, and Phil Smith helped put them in on Saturday at our work day. So if you need a place where you can hang out and just be in God's creation, you go out in our field. There's really cool benches out there on the path. Eventually we'll be adding some things to those, but I'm excited to get out there if it'll ever stay warm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't understand Michigan.
Yep.
It goes from 80 to gross in 50s in a day.
That was the weather forecast today, gross in 50s.
Yeah.
So that's what the weather person said.
Yep.
Oh, man. Good deal. So, yeah, we are looking back to this past Sunday. We were in week 2 of our series, Healthy. And I don't think I said this. It was Nick that was sitting in here. Is that I had someone come up to me a couple of months ago, and they were saying the banter at the beginning, just get to the point. Just get to the point, and I was.
All right, sorry.
And I had just read an article that same week about how people did not like banter at the beginning of podcasts or, video things like we're doing now. So if anyone is still with us, you are patient and kind.
I'll put in the comments to start this video at like 4 minutes and 25 seconds, whenever it is.
Just ignore all the comments
Yeah.
and all these different things. So anyways, so we're talking in our series Healthy with the goal of just thinking in the back of our mind is this John 10:10 is this Jesus desires for us to have life and life to the full. We so often think that is eternal, which is true, but it's also now. And he's speaking to us now as this fullness of life. And we can walk in this fullness of life now, and that does not mean everything is perfect. In fact, this Sunday, I think it was in third service, I said, listen, we're talking about this series Healthy, but if you are not healthy in any way, it is not a thing to feel like rejected by or less than. It's about in this season of moving toward Jesus and being with Jesus, and he brings us into a healthy place that we can be sick physically, emotionally, but yet still healthy with Jesus because we're growing in that way. And so it is all about this process of growth and maturity in there. So this past Sunday, we talked about some things. I read a story. Do you remember the story I read?
You read a story about bears.
About bears. Did you? No, I think I asked you this question. That book was not familiar.
Not at all.
You did not read it as a child, nor to your
Every
children.
time you read it in service, I was like, nope,
You don't get it.
got nothing.
So Michelle Albrecht, one of our preschool teachers, she used to teach the kids that, and that's how Aubrey was first familiar with it. And there's some sort of like rhythm type thing. Your sister
really?
was mentioning that on Sunday. And
My sister knew about it? Oh,
sister.
she was an elementary teacher.
Yeah,
So.
yep. And she loves children, so she has good books. So.
I like children too. He just implied that I don't.
So yeah, there's Michelle used to do this great rendition of it, and I was thinking of her as I was reading it. But it was about these kids and their father going on a bear hunt, and they chose quite possibly the worst day and the worst path that they could to get to this bear, because they went through really tall grass and mud and a river and a snowstorm out of nowhere. And they
Must have been based in Michigan.
right, yeah, it's hot one moment, freezing the next. And they got to the bear, they got really afraid, and they ran back. And one of the cool things was that the father was with them the entire time. Is that they kept saying these things, which was like, it's a beautiful day, we're not afraid. So kind of this thing of like, we're going to tell ourselves everything is okay. We're going on a bear hunt, and they try to go around or they try to go under or over these obstacles, but they realize they have to go through it. And we've been talking about health, of the need to go through things in order to really heal and grow.
Yeah.
So there's that journey they went on with the father. Did you relate? Did you connect to that story? Did you feel anything either as a father or having a father or Father God?
Well, I equate a lot of my relationship to worship, obviously. Which, by the way, Bethany said that book is also in song form on YouTube.
Yes, it is.
So
Slightly different. And there's a show that they released with it. And there's even, I think, a stage production as well.
wow.
Serious.
Anywho, a lot of the songs we've chosen over the last few weeks have dealt with that idea that even if you're in the storm, if you're in the battle, whatever you're going through, this past week, the Desert song speaks to that in the midst of all those things,
Someone's calling you.
yeah, sorry about that. in the midst of all
Let's
those
bring
things,
them into the conversation.
it is important for us to give praise because the Father is still there. And no matter if we're in the valley, if we're on the mountaintop, if we're trying to circumvent everything, God is still there. And it's the reason that we worship. And I think that is easy to say, easy to preach. It's hard to live. And that is, I think, something that's powerful about worship in itself is that when you proclaim it through melody, through song, it starts to settle in a little bit to me of where you can proclaim that, and I will bring praise, I will bring praise. You know, just this idea of in the midst of this desert, in the midst of this storm, I'm going to proclaim that I'm going to praise you. So as a father, it's difficult too, because I feel that pressure then as the father. How am I going to get my family through this? How am I going to do this? And I think as a father, I need to realize I'm not in control, that the Father is in control. So in the midst of being unhealthy or unhealthy situations, there's a lot of giving up, which is very difficult to do when you're in those situations because you want to control that. You want to fix it. I'm a fixer. So that's what was going through my head.
Yeah. You realize how little power you really have. We have lots of influence and lots of opportunity, but ultimate power is not in our hands because we never know what's going to happen to our kids, to our families, and we just continue to surrender. And I think of years ago when we were in the process of adoption, I remember feeling that powerlessness and having to go through just that waiting, that unknown. So many things that we just wanted to circumvent. You use that word really well. Is that like, but we just had to go through it, and that helplessness of God, this is yours, and man, that was a heartache. That was a mental headache. It was just a lot of things because of our attachment and our growth towards that, because we wanted to protect. And ultimately, it came to the point of just God, whether it was a tap on the shoulder or a kick upside the head, was that, okay, Kris, I love him way more than you do. I'll take care of him. And that's a hard thing, but as a father, you do all you can to be there and care for them.
Yeah.
So it's sitting, in that stillness and that silence a lot of times where we have to get to that point. What I just communicated is I remember I went to Kalamazoo and I sat in a park by myself, and I could take you to the bench I sat on, and I just prayed and just listened and waited for a phone call, for a text, for whatever it was, just news of that day. And many of you have been there. We've walked through these seasons of just waiting, of the unknown, of what's before and what's coming. And so I just mentioned stillness. How do you deal with stillness?
I don't.
Yeah.
I avoid it at all costs. I distinctly remember a time when we did a worship night called Beyond Silence. And the whole point of it, I came up with the idea, was to have moments of silence built into the worship time. And I remember in those moments looking back, and Kris was standing by the sound booth, and I would go to talk in the mic, and he would go and make me wait longer and longer.
Yep.
How I deal with silence, I go into a fog. I wouldn't say I coast through it. I just kind of put my head down and go through it. When Avery came into the world and the craziness that happened with that, and we were at the NICU for a week and all that kind of stuff, I just remember, I actually don't remember a lot of it, to be honest, because I was going through that fog and just trying to make it happen. But as you were talking, I was feeling really convicted, because I've always had pride in the fact that I'm a mobile prayer, is what I call it. That if I'm driving or if I'm, working or doing something, I'll lift up prayers to God. And I've always been like, that's kind of how I pray. And then as you were talking on Sunday, I was like, man, I'm awful at the prayer closet thing of just stopping. Because my mind races. I'm constantly going through stuff. I got to fix this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I actually just got my hair cut by Molly Collins, and we were talking about this. And I said to her, I literally had to write prayer closet and quiet time in my to-do list, which is awful. But at the same time, it's like,
Nope.
that's the reminder for
Yep.
me. And I haven't figured out where I'm going to do it yet. I kind of want to find your rat's nest upstairs and do
Pretty
that.
sweet up there.
But those benches were calling my name earlier.
Yeah.
I need to do a better job of that. And I avoid silence because, man, that's a good conversation for my therapist. I don't know why I avoid silence. I don't like it. I do not like it.
I think one of the things I said on Sunday, and this may or may not be true for you, is that when we sit in silence, this stuff comes up. Is like our mind starts racing, like you mentioned, and we think about these things within our life. And a lot of times it's just easy to be busy instead of be present in it. Because I think God brings these things to the surface, and we're like, no, thank you.
Yeah. And I think part of it for me too, and we talked about this as a staff, is I feel guilty. Because that time that I'm spending in silence, you said a really good question, is prayer productive? And it should be. It should be the most productive thing ever, Chelsea said. But as a doer, as a person who has a to-do list, if I spend a half hour in silent prayer, I could be spending that half hour getting stuff done so I can get home earlier to my kids so that I can do this and this and this and this. And you can come up with all these things, but we all said as a staff too, when you have those moments of silence, of your prayer closet time, all that other stuff seems to happen and you get it done. And there's something miraculous about that. So I struggle with that, like, guilt of I should be using my time more wisely here, which is ridiculous. The wisest thing you can do is spend that time with God. So
Yeah, it's what John was referencing, the conversation we were having as a staff, is that it's part of the reason that we avoid the stillness or the silence is because deep down we don't believe that prayer is productive. And like you mentioned, is that one of the staff members chimed in saying, of course it's productive, it's the most productive thing. Like, I believe that.
yeah.
But it's, do I stop and do that? Do I live in that and rest in that? And I think that's our true answer to our question. And because it is hard to be still. And, I've gotten up, was it yesterday morning? I got up and went downstairs and just sat in, one of our chairs and just sat there and sat there and sat there and sat there. And then this morning, I took time. I was actually down at the Union and just took some time just to sit there and be present when I'm looking at all sorts of things that I should be doing or could be doing. We just live in such a society that causes us to go and we value results. And sometimes, many times in prayer, we don't see the results soon enough to feel like it was worth it. Because there's plenty of people out there that have been praying for something, trusting God for something, and here we are decades later and they're still praying, and I'm like, man, keep at it, that is awesome. But sometimes when we don't get those results in the next week or something, or even day, it's like, not really worth it.
Or it's, I'll just take care of it myself.
Yeah, that's right. I'll figure it away. That's good.
Yeah, it's like Mary and Martha, which you talked about too, is I had this realization as we were talking through Mary and Martha. Ministry has, especially American ministry, has an uncanny ability to force you to be a Martha.
Absolutely.
And as I was sitting there, I was like, someone should write a book about that. So Kris, if you could, it's one of those things that if you're not producing in ministry, if you're not doing, you struggle with that guilt. And one of the most important things that you can do in ministry is be a Mary so that you can be filled. And man, am I speaking to myself right now. I have such a hard time with that. And it actually took one of my tech crew people in the last 2 months who really spoke into me of that's why I'm here. I want you to be able, to have time to be filled. And so you're not, if you were to pan the camera, you'd see 2 ladders over here. So you're not up on ladders doing lights and stuff like that. And I still struggle with that because I'm like, I enjoy that, but it is not exactly what I need to be doing right now. And even as I say that, I know I'm going to work on these lights later. So it's one of those things, though, that I wish that the American church could get in more of the mindset of let's be Marys and get away from the idea of let's be Marthas. James talks about it a lot. You do need to have works, but it's not based in works. And yet we equate so much of that with that. And Man, is it a struggle.
It is.
So like Bethany said that she's a mobile prayer too, and wishes she could sit still for 20 minutes. I'm right there with you. I cannot sit still. Kris knows that. In our conversations, my leg is usually shaking. Something's moving. I'm one of those people.
You can tell when John's ready to go. He just kind of starts going like this.
Yep.
Like he's still talking. And
Yeah.
It's like that slow movement now.
I'm a very polite person. But like she said, are there any tips? And something Kris talked about in staff meeting yesterday was having a pad of paper next to you during that time. Mm-hmm. And I remember doing that when we had a staff prayer day, just writing down those things that are on your mind, like laundry, lights, those things you might think are so important right now that I got to get up and do that. Write them down, and after your 20 minutes are done, then you can take care of it. Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing too in reading the Word or studying the Word, is to have two columns. Is like, if you're taking notes, or even in a message, like you're taking notes, is to have one column with the notes that you're taking, what has been said, and then your right column is what am I actually thinking or feeling. Is that, okay, I said, what did I say? It's okay not to be okay. I said that 2 Sundays ago. So I saw all sorts of people writing that down. But in that next column is that, but I feel guilty when I feel this way, or I feel like this goes against everything I've been taught. Whatever it may be, is that then you can go back and really even pray over that and process that too, is that because our mind, unfortunately, is not just like one streamlined thought. It's very complex. So it is bringing some order to chaos. And along those, those lines of just tips is that just forcing yourself to sit. Like, don't feel productive in prayer. You shouldn't get up and be like, oh, that was a great, productive time. It may feel like the greatest waste of time. That sounds horrible saying that, but it may feel like the greatest waste of time, but you were present and God honors that. And that just repeating that of like, okay, this is going to be my place for 5 minutes today. I'm going to set a timer on my phone. I'm just going to sit and be still. I was telling someone earlier this morning that those 30 seconds that we had in church, as I was standing up here waiting for those 30 seconds to be done, it felt like an eternity. Because I have 100 people looking at me or whatever, of like, here I am just in silence. But it's those things, just the discipline into that, not getting down on yourself, even in that stillness of going back. We talked a couple weeks ago about praying psalms in the morning. Is that in that stillness, is you're there for a while, is pick up and read like just a single verse from the Psalms and reflect on that. Take one like to be still and know that I am God, and just reflect on that. Just slowing down and not feeling like you have to read a whole chapter or to a chapter and then a devotional and then pray for my whole list and then solve all the world's problems in that time. It's just like just being present. And we as a church, is that my desire is for us. We've talked about being slower. We've talked about us like being intentional about things, of finding some more healthy rhythms, of not being the American church. Is that there's going to be plenty of churches in this area and in this country that's going to offer a plethora of things, and you can be super busy with a lot of things, but I'd rather have us be a church that is engaged with God and engaged with each other in the things that he has for us in a manageable pace. And that's the only way we're going to survive, that we're not going to burn out, that you're not going to burn out, is really these pacings, and it's going to take time to develop that.
Yeah. Brittany Barnett has a really cool idea. She says, I've been working on saying Jesus for 60 seconds before and after I have my time, just to help me slow down. And it's been great. And she said, so thank you for that. It is one of those things that rhythmic pattern can help you slow your breathing, can help you really focus and enter into a focused time. So I need to work on these things. It's easy for me to, I know that you practice this stuff on the daily.
I've got a long ways to go.
Yeah. And then you look at my dad and it's like, whoa. But Pastor Gerten, the founding pastor, I remember getting annoyed with him. I'm going to be honest with you. He would come into the sanctuary and pray for hours. And as the worship pastor, I was like, dude, I got to get in there and do stuff. I need the sanctuary. And so I would look in there and be like, oh, he's not done yet. But at the same time, working towards that, like I'm at a lower place than Kris is at a lower place than Pastor is, whatever. Not in comparison, but knowing that it does take time, that it is easier to sit here and talk about it than it is to put it in practice. And once you start to put it into practice, it develops into a habit. Once it's a habit, it becomes more normal. But it takes those first initial steps to practice these things. So I encourage you who are watching, and I'm talking to myself again, to practice that. Something that I've been trying to do at home is putting this aside. For me, when I hold on to Avery, who's our newborn, it's so easy for me to hold on to him and just kind of scroll and sit here and do this. And lately I've been putting on a sound machine when I hold him when he's sleeping. And so I can't really do that. And so it's actually forced me to not do that. And like I've just rested with him and been more present. So maybe that's what it is. Plug your phone in a different room. When you're doing your prayer closet, that should not be with you. If it is with you, put it on silent, Get rid of those distractions when you're trying to practice, because it's going to ruin that for you.
Yeah, there's just basic rhythms that we'll continue to share, talk about through the series, and then beyond this too, just different practical ideas like you just said. Another one too is leaving your phone somewhere else and having like an old school alarm clock next to your bed for the time or your alarm. I've not quite done that yet, but that's just another way that we're not drawn to our phones. There's just a lot of different simple things we can do, or just leaving our phones in the other room, that we can really be present with God, like John just mentioned, and also present with each other. So I don't know what time it is right now. We've been
2:24.
We've been talking for a while.
I was just thinking, though, with that idea of looking at others and seeing their progression, we're talking about health, and you may be watching this, or you may have been watching our series so far, and you felt like, I am not a healthy person. I am very unhealthy. Well, I want you to know, first of all, you're not alone in that. Second of all, we just lost our camera feed. So let me fix that.
We probably still have audio, don't we? So
Good enough.
all right, yeah, we got just a few minutes left. We're good.
So anyways, that progression in your health, not to fall into the trap of I'm unhealthy and I'll never get there, but to know, like, I've been in an unhealthy place. I went through pretty extreme depression and still struggle with it from time to time, but I was unhealthy and I needed to take steps and saw a counselor, took medication, really tried to invest in that. And I still swing back and forth. I know I'm not healthy, but I'm working towards it. And you might look at somebody on the stage here on Sunday and be like, you guys are doing a series on health and you guys are all perfect. No, we are not. And that's one of the reasons that Kris really felt that we needed to do this series, is to admit to everybody we are not perfect creatures, we are not healthy, and that we are all striving towards becoming more and more like Christ and living life to the full. So I admit that to you, but I also want to encourage you in that too. So.
Absolutely. It's, for you, maybe that's sharing something with a friend or a spouse or a pastor or a counselor, like John just mentioned. That's really helped me through a season is, over the last year and a half of seeing a counselor, and, whoever it may be, is just sharing, just getting that out is really powerful. And so find a way to get that out and to start processing that in a safe environment. There's ways to do that here through various groups. And in fact, as John just was mentioning, 6:15 tonight at the Union, we're going to have the first of, I think, about 7 healthy conversations. And we're going to sit in a circle, and we're going to listen, we're going to share, and we're going to reflect. And it's not going to be a time of teaching. It's going to be more of a time of sharing. And, so if you want to share, you can come and listen, whatever it may be. But really to think about some of the things that we've been sharing on Sundays and beyond that. So I'm really excited. Lori Kraft, who's a certified life coach, and I will be there as well hosting. So invite you to come down, and we'll have I'm excited for tonight, and it'll be a good couple of weeks. So invite you to come down at 6:15 tonight, and then it'll be every other Tuesday that we'll be there. So
Sweet.
yeah. There's much more we could share, but we'll be doing that. So this Sunday we're going to be talking on Mother's Day. I'll be sharing about a mother's heart and the beauty of that and the opportunity of that, and we'll be looking at a couple examples from Scripture and just what we can learn from Jesus. And we think of the Father God often, but there's like this mother's heart in there, and he's as much to. So we're made in the image of God, that there's so much that we can learn. So thankful that you all are here, everyone watching, whether it's live or later on. And thanks for sharing, John. It was a good conversation.
Yeah.
And we never know quite where these are going to go, and so it's fun
Yeah.
to see that. So we'll be back here next Tuesday. So have a great day.